Wait till the sand runs out before I open my mouth. I'm just a burden. I'm just a burden when I need your love, and I need your love. I'm so uncertain.
Alrighty guys, we are here with Amber DeLaRosa, singer-songwriter, Sacramento's finest. Thank you so much for being here, Amber.
Thank you for having me.
So you've come a super long way. I remember seeing you at the Woodside Elementary School talent shows, performing at youth group, putting your videos on MySpace, and now your song Get to You has streamed over 1 million times on YouTube alone, which is so crazy. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
It feels pretty nuts, honestly. Like you said, I've been doing music for so long, and there's never been a time in my life where I haven't been obsessed with doing music, and so really a lot of the choices I've made in this last year have definitely just changed the course of my music career, and it's pretty insane. It's all very new to navigate. Yeah, it's how insane it is like not lost on me at all. Like I'm like a dork, and I wake up every morning and I like check the views, and I'm like, oh my god,
That's crazy.
like somebody's listening in Brazil or something. Like it, I don't know. There's like,
Yeah, you're worldwide now. Like, that's crazy.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's wild. I guess. So like I made a major change with my music this past year, which I completely switched genres, and that was a long time coming. I guess I feel like that was incubating for a while, and it just took me many years to, I guess, realize what was brewing, and I kind of took this giant leap to make pop music. I had
turning point.
What was the turning point?
Yeah, what was that turning point for you where you were just like, all right, I need to change this, like, you know, what I'm doing? Because you were in a band. You were in a band called Flourish, and now this past year you came out as an independent artist.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been really weird to navigate? Has it been a good change, a bad change?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
It's absolutely been a good change. I think just any time that I have the power to make the decisions that I want to make for my music and move forward, ultimately by like what feels true to me, what musician wouldn't want to do that, you know?
Right.
But definitely the catalyst for all of that, I was going through a lot in my personal life, and music for me has always been catharsis. Like ever since I was a little girl, you know, I've been writing songs long before I ever showed them to anybody or anything. It was always just a way for me to cope with like really extreme situations in my life and really extreme feelings that I've dealt with over the course of my life. Mm-hmm. It was literally, my guitar was just like my guiding light. And so at this point in my life, I was at such a crossroads. I felt like I was like pounding the pavement with music, but not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was banging my head against the same wall, and I couldn't identify what the wall was. And I just started to realize that the wall was me. Like,
wow.
So yeah, basically a lot of intense events unfurled in my life that caused me to be at such an emotional peak, that I basically spent the year slung over my piano, like processing everything that had just happened in the past couple years of my life, and the past relationships that I was in, and the toll that all of that took on me. So before that, for most of my life, I've written all my songs on guitar.
And you're self-taught on guitar?
Yes.
That's crazy.
So basically, I started writing these songs on piano, mostly out of just like processing my pain, honestly. I don't think I was even trying to sit down and write a song. It was just something about switching instruments. It just brought out, I would say, a new part of my heart, but that's really wrong to say, because it brought out like a part of my heart that was always there, but like never speaking. It brought out like all the feelings I had about music since I was a little girl. And I don't know, because I'm self-taught on instruments. I don't play classically by any means. There's something very just open about the piano to me that I can just literally bang my hands down, and if I try hard enough and long enough, I can feel what sound I want to come out of that piano. And so with guitar, I realized I felt for a while a little more restricted, and something about playing this piano. The piano was very untuned for a long time, first of all. So that was kind of a funny thing. The piano wasn't even in tune. So it was massively out of tune, and so I could come up with all of these like weird out of tune chords that I was like, this works for some reason. I love this. And like, I don't know, my life was very out of tune at the time. So most of these pop songs that I've been writing actually started as like really emotional ballads, absolute breaking points in my life, where I had no other option to figure out how I felt besides just like sitting down and pouring it all out, like just literally sobbing out these songs. And you know, there's a song about like intimacy, where like everything leading up to that song is so much more intense than I could ever put into words, like all the story behind that. But there's a song about my car catching on fire. That's a true story. Like these are pivotal times in my life where I felt like I had nowhere else to go, and like so alone with myself, but like there in all of my aloneness is like a piano. And I don't know, it's pretty amazing to see like what these songs can turn into when they've come from such a place of pain. I think with guitar, I was always processing my pain through music. And before with Flourish and with my other solo like indie singer-songwriter stuff, I was definitely known for having very sad songs. Everyone always be like, I love your songs, but they're so sad. I can't listen unless I'm in like a really sad mood and all this stuff. And that was something I really grappled with, because I was like, well, I write music to process my sadness. And so I didn't know how to write from a different place, I guess. And now there's this new journey with me with pop music where I get to like, it's like I get to finish the story. Like, instead of like, I'm processing the pain, and instead of just stopping there and putting that song out, like when I translate it to pop, I get to like also show the triumphant ending. Like
the victory.
Like that day that my car caught on fire, like was by no means.
You said you laughed about it in the song.
Did,
I'm like,
it's true.
Did you really laugh
really
about it? Like,
did.
if I saw my car catch on fire, I would probably be crying.
Yeah, I had my nanny kid in the car with me at the time. She was asleep.
Terrifying.
She was asleep in the back seat of the car. It was her and her dog, and we were on our way to a hike. And then my car was fine in perfectly good health, and it spontaneously caught fire. It happened to be right around the time where I was very unhappy in a relationship that I was in. And I felt like for so many reasons, I felt like I could not walk away from that relationship. And I felt like I was at a place where I had to choose between that relationship and my music is really how I felt. And whether that's true or not, how I felt was that I was sacrificing so much of myself. And I just knew if I continued to keep sacrificing that much of myself, I knew that music was fleeting. It felt like that glimmer of music was like fleeting from my life.
Yeah, and that's such a big part of you.
Yeah. And so
Let that go.
Around that time, my car catching on fire was just such a huge sign to me. It was just about...
I think it was symbolic.
Yeah. It was just like, because that same day I had made a decision to end that relationship.
The same day?
Yes.
Wow.
And as I was driving away, my car caught on fire, and I felt like literally everything in my life was just up in flames. But like you said, the lyrics say, I laughed the whole time. I mean, because my car spontaneously catches on fire, my first priority is to think about my 3-year-old nanny kid in the back seat. I immediately had to pull to the side of the freeway, and I had like crazy like pregnancy adrenaline strength or something.
You're like, I can lift this car.
Yeah, because
you want to protect it.
Yeah, I literally ripped her car seat out of the car by the seatbelt, and I just carried her car seat and her dog, and I just like ran as fast as I could away from the car, and then I'm like heaving, like she was asleep. She's obviously starting to wake up now with all this commotion.
Oh God.
I get us to like a safe point on the freeway, and I look over. What's also funny is that same week I had just paid that car off, which is also hilarious. Yeah, just funny little detail. So as I'm like sitting there like heaving, watching, there's nothing I can do. My car is now being engulfed in flames. My nanny kid is just sitting in my arms in her car seat, and she just like wakes up and she says, "Nanny, why is your car on fire?" and I just like erupted in laughter, and so did she. And so her and I are just sitting there on the side of the road,
just watching,
just dying laughing as my car catches on fire.
Wow.
And I felt weirdly okay with it. I felt weirdly like, this is my time to move on.
It was like the
release.
If
I have to burn down everything to do it, like, I'll do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and that eventually turned into a song that I never knew would turn into a pop song, a dance song at that, with a dance beat.
Right.
And, like, jumping around talking about my car catching on fire. So I guess that's the most rewarding part out of all of this, is, like, getting to take these painful experiences that are really, truly, too painful for words, and somehow tell that story.
Yeah. To touch other people. Do you feel like a lot of people are going through the same situations? Like, have you had people reach out to you and say, "Hey, thank you so much for making this song, because I was going through the same situation"?
Yeah, definitely. I was like actually very, especially with the song "Not Yours," which was the follow up to my single "Get to Me."
Mm-hmm.
That I touched a little bit on the story behind that relationship and like the events leading up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think I'm pretty open about the different things I've experienced in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that,
which is not easy. Like, I give you a lot of respect for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I feel like I have a really open dialogue with the people that do care
mm-hmm.
about my music or care what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, kind of at any given time, I'm engaged in some kind of novel inbox exchange with somebody that I don't actually know on the internet, and we're talking about our childhood traumas and our relationship traumas and all of our things. But it just means so much, because it just makes us not alone, and it just gives me a point to all of it. It's like none of that pain matters now, because it means something now. It didn't just stop at like being pain. Like,
mm-hmm.
now I get to relate with other people and somehow articulate that experience that is so hard to put those experiences into words. Yeah. And I know how much music helped me at that time in my life, when I would come across a song that would just somehow say exactly how I was feeling.
Yep.
It felt like it feels like somebody's saying the words that are on the tip of your tongue.
Like, if you can't process, because no one can write music if you're not a writer, right? So it's like, if you have someone that's like can just translate it exactly how you're feeling,
yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I think even with that song, putting it out, that song felt very coded to me, because I feel like there's so much to that story that you can't fit into a 3-minute song.
Mm-hmm.
Yet somehow, like, so many people were like, I know exactly what you're experiencing. That my whole last relationship felt like a car fire, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually even had, it's funny, I've actually even had, this is probably weird to share, but I've even had, like, the person who that song is in reference to, I've even had his ex-partners reach out to me and be like, I know exactly
what you're
seeing in that song.
Wow.
And I've actually come upon like genuine friendship with these girls because we've
Bonded over the same trauma.
yeah. So it's
Wow.
pretty crazy the connections that all of this has made. I've never felt more connected to people than I do right now. And that's really special because for so long I've felt so alone, and especially when it comes to my music, I've felt so alone for so long. So yeah, I really can't even say how much it means to me. Like it genuinely means so much for anybody to care, anybody to listen, anybody to resonate. That's like literally all I want in the world.
Congratulations on being nominated for Sacramento's Best New Artist and Artist of the Year. That's absolutely crazy.
Thank you.
That's so
much.
awesome. Yeah. So how does it feel being kind of like a trailblazer in the evolving Sacramento music scene? I feel like now more than ever, it's just picking up, and you are at the forefront of it.
It's funny. It's especially funny to be nominated for New Artist because I feel like I've been trying to trailblaze for like literally over a decade. I mean, you know me. We've known each other since elementary school.
Yep.
So you know that I've actually literally always done music since
Ever.
the beginning of time.
Yep.
But like, I have always poured my heart into doing music in Sacramento, and so like it's funny you use the word trailblaze because I feel like I have been trying to I have been on the trail for like literally 10 years at least.
Forever.
And this year I feel like it's finally caught fire. And it's still to me like you know, its own small flame. To me, you know, it's warming me up more than anything in my life ever has, but I also know like it's still a small flame. Like I still want to keep.
It's growing.
Yeah.
And it's still growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it especially means a lot. Just I love Sacramento with all of my heart. I don't know. I feel as passionate about Sacramento as I do with music. I'm proud to be a Sacramento artist. I'm proud of all of my friends that are Sacramento musicians that are making a name for themselves, that are putting out work that's like at a caliber. You know, I'm absolutely proud to be in the Sacramento music and art community.
Yeah.
I think it's really special. I think it's like very untapped. I think it's a hidden gem and people are starting to notice it.
How was it performing concerts in the park?
That was insane and the best feeling of my life. I feel like even if I go on to play cooler shows, I will probably still always like, I will forever hold that show so high in my heart. Because there was just so much culminating up to it and so much around it. Gearing up for a concert in the park, people knew I was working on new music. Nobody knew I was going solo. Nobody knew I was transitioning to pop.
That was during the transition phase.
Yeah. So, like, basically there was this, I got offered concert in the park 6 months prior to concert in the park. And at that point, I only had demos of my pop music, which were still, like, very in the early stage.
Wow.
And I basically had 6 months to be like, I need to get an entire set, electronic set, ready for concert in the park. And it's much more complex than just me and a guitar. It's, you know, an entire professional system and, you know, drum triggers and everything so that we can play it exactly as it is in the recordings.
Yeah.
And it was just important to me to just like completely show up with something completely, like, I wanted to make a wave for myself. I can't even tell you how nervous I was leading up to that because at that point only my closest friends had even gotten a peek into the demos.
So you didn't tell anyone? You were
Yeah,
just like,
I didn't even know. I didn't even know what to call the music. I didn't even know if I recognized it as like. I just knew it was completely different, and I was scared. I was really scared if people were gonna like it because it was a complete left turn from what I was doing.
So you were taking a jump.
Yeah, I mean more than a jump. It was like a leap off a cliff.
Yeah. And
Concert in the Park caught me, and that was the weirdest. That was just the most exhilarating feeling, because you know, it was over 9,000 people. It was just a sea of people as far as I could see. the energy was just palpable. Like, people were there, people were ready for music, and just something about the energy of that night. Like, anybody who was close with me, you know, on that night, like, there was just an energy about it. You know, I've played a zillion venues and a zillion hole in the walls, and I can play a bar of 10 people where I have to compete, you know, to sing. They're talking over me and these different things. And I was really afraid of, like, first of all, I never expected 9,000 people. I never even could fathom what that would look like or feel like, other than in my, like, wildest dreams. I did City of Trees, which is 12,000 people.
Right.
But still, Concert in the Park, just having everybody right there in front of me, and that being the first time that it's like I was birthing this baby for, like, a very long time, and then I was like, here.
Do you like it?
And then people were into it.
Very well received.
The crowd was very into it, and I had never had a crowd reaction like that. I was used to girls, like, crying during my sets, like, during all my sad, because I sing hella sad songs. Yeah. But, like, I was used to, you know, maybe one or two people coming up to me after a show and being like, wow, that really spoke to me, that really meant to me. But this was, like, just insanity of a different level, but, like, the exact kind of insanity I want. Good. I was absolutely exhausted after the set. I was like, hunched over, my back, every muscle I just realized I was tensing literally every muscle in my body the entire set. Yeah. But it was also, at the same time, as soon as I started singing, I also just felt, like, so carefree. It's just a high I can't explain. It's a moment that I have to think back to when this is hard, when I am facing adversity, when I am like, do I want this? Why do I want this? Like, I think back to that moment and I'm like, that is what I want. It's that feeling. And it's just a feeling of freedom, a feeling of doing what I feel like I'm supposed to do. And it's a feeling of not being alone. Like, just, like, my heart, you know, somehow touching, like, somehow connecting with somebody else's heart that I don't even know that person. Yeah. Yeah, it was insane. It was awesome.
Wow. Yeah. That's so special. I love that.
Yeah, and then also opening for Hoba Johnson, Frank, like, that was really special too, because years before that, him and I had played, like, you know, really humble shows together on, like, a couch in the backyard.
It's cool to see, like, the growth.
Yeah, and I remember watching Frank, like, early on in his, like, you know, trajectory in Sacramento, and being like, I know that dude has something special. Like, I know that dude has talent. And I you know, have always believed in Frank since day one. And, like, even from very weird, humble beginnings. And it was just, and then, you know, leading up, I saw Frank's career take off, and he's really one of the first examples I have of one of my peers from Sacramento truly making their music reach, like, internationally, and making huge waves with his music, and that was so full circle to be able to play that show with him, of all people, because, yeah, it was just so full circle.
It's so cool to see, like, you supporting other Sacramento artists, and you guys are all just, like, rooting each other on, you know?
Well, you got it. So I think that was also a big, like, click that happened in my brain at some point of, like, how necessary and how important it is to, like, surround yourself with peers that are doing what you're doing and care about what you're doing. And that was a big turning point in me, even navigating to pop music, was, like, meeting musicians for coffee and, like, fostering friendships and, like, asking, like, the deeper questions about, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? What does success look like for you? Where do you, like, just all these different questions, and sort of matching them up with, like, okay, this is how I feel and how I see things, and, like, okay, I'm on the right track. Like, I don't know.
Rather than doing it alone.
Yeah.
And that's how you met your boyfriend, right? Michael Franzino, which is also your producer.
Yeah.
How did that relationship come about, and how is it working with your boyfriend?
Yeah, it's so special. It's again, it's one of those things that only him and I can know what that means, and can know everything behind the scenes, and everything that has been put into it, like, all the tears, all the laughter, all the late nights, all the, like, just everything. I mean, Michael has helped me change my life, and I think what's so pivotal, why can't I think of this word? Pivotal. I think what is so pivotal, I can't. I'm gonna move on.
You're good.
What is so important
Yes.
about our relationship is that he was the first person I met that I felt was as passionate about music, if not more. And I was running into this reoccurring problem in my relationships where I never had partners that understood what it meant to have music as your passion, what it meant to put music first, and what it meant to need alone time to write, and what it meant to be able to dig into my old feelings to write a song, and like just all this room and space that you need in order to create music. I can understandably see why that's hard for other partners to understand. But,
yeah, absolutely.
But it
was
was different to meet somebody who put my passion for music in check, because I always felt super passionate. I always felt like I was working super hard. But then I met this person who, like, he wasn't just talking the talk, he was walking the walk. He lives and breathes music. Like, you know, as we have this interview right now, he's cooped up in a studio writing, and he will be there until the sun comes up. And yeah, we actually initially just met for that same reason. I was at a crossroads with music. He was at a crossroads with music. I had these songs I'd been writing over piano, and I secretly knew where I wanted to take them, but had no idea how to take them there.
So did you know that this was going to be pop music, your next step?
Not necessarily. Not in that first moment. What I knew was that these songs just felt bigger, and they just felt bigger than what I could do with a guitar, and bigger than what I could do with a band even. And I don't mean bigger in a sense of like how successful they could be or whatever. I mean, like, the songs just felt set apart to me. They just felt heavier. They felt just truer. I would write these songs, and the lyrics I would write would shock myself, because I was having like realizations that I wasn't even facing in my waking life, that I would, like, when I would sing a lyric, I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe that's how I feel. Like, yeah,
wow.
Of course that's how I feel. Like, oh my God, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. It's just like, sorry, I'm yelling into the mic, but it was just the ultimate incarnation of, I think I had so much pent up emotions at that time, and I could not describe to anybody what I was going through.
Yeah.
And it was finally this moment, and the songs were ballads on piano, and I knew they just didn't fit the landscape of like alt guitar, like indie, like,
yeah.
And then especially Get to Me.
Yeah, how did that come about? Like, did you guys know when you made that? Were you like, yes, this is a banger, like, this is going to be the one?
Well, that song started from, I actually, again, at a crossroads, out of total desperation, I was at a point where I was like, I will try anything to, like, sort out my heart right now.
Yeah.
And I went to this women's night, even though it was like a women's circle. I felt like nervous to attend. I attended alone. I had so much on my heart at the time. And, like 2 seconds into the women's circle, Anne-Marie Kramer, who was leading the women's circle, she asked this question that immediately made me just like, you know, like tear up. Like, just, she asked, the whole night was themed around intimacy and women. And one of the questions she asked was, how often does your partner touch you without it leading to sex? And that question was like just blew my mind. Like, how often does your partner just come up to you and just caress you, or just like love on you, without it leading there? And I had never stopped to think like, yeah, wow. And that night at that women's circle, just the different things that women shared and the different questions that were raised. In the end, we ended the women's circle with a silent meditation where we all like laid on the ground, and someone guided us through a meditation, and again asked some, for me, very deep questions. They triggered very deep answers in me, because you know, I definitely, this is something I'm very open about online and everything, but I have a history of, there's a lot of sexual abuse in my life growing up, a lot of, just a lot of abuse that, you know, then later made its way into forming a lot of really complex issues in my relationships, with, you know, the kind of love that I was accepting. And she asked this question that, in this room full of people that I didn't even know, really, I just started, like, screaming, crying. And I it was like an alarm bell going on. It was something so, like, something about that night. It was like everybody asked the right questions. Everybody raised the right questions in me, that a dam just broke. Like,
Yeah.
because I had been silently suffering for, like, so long at that point. And it actually turned into this crazy night where one of the women in the circle ended up being this highly skilled therapist that worked in, like, trauma and all these things, and she ended up taking me to her office after this women's circle was over, and we stayed in her office until, like, almost 2 a.m.
That same night.
Wow. Just doing, like, deep therapy on deep memories and deep questions within me.
Wow.
That revealed to me a lot of why I was still staying in this relationship that was extremely unhealthy for me and extremely painful for me, and why I felt like I couldn't leave. And when I got home that night, it was like 2 a.m. I was a mess. Every muscle in my body hurt from crying and remembering and processing and all this stuff. And I sat down on the piano, and those first lyrics just came out, and it was how close can you get to me without placing your hands on my body. And
That same night,
the first verse was born right there, and again, there was this giggly, laughy feeling about it when it came out, because it's like so much intense feelings leading up to just, like, such a positive feeling, an empowering feeling of, like, dude, I don't want to stand for this kind of love anymore, you know? And I won't. Like, I want to start asking myself questions about what love do I want to receive and what love am I receiving.
Absolutely.
And something sparked me about that song. I'd never written something that sounded like that. And most of my songs before with Flourish are actually mostly a lot about my childhood and processing a lot of childhood trauma. They may sound a lot like love songs, but they're actually a lot dealing with things I encountered in my childhood. This was the first time that I wrote from this lens and this angle, and it just immediately felt different to me. And I kept toying with just that verse. It was very simple. It was like 2 chords, 2 half-baked chords on the piano, because, again, I'm self-taught. I don't even play actual chords. I just find, like, what I need to get the sound across. And I kept with it, and every time that I kept playing it, I kept imagining a beat with it, which was very new to me.
Wow.
Because, you know, before with the band and everything, I would write a song on guitar. It would always be an acoustic song, and then we would figure out how we'd introduce drums into the song. But this time, as I was playing on piano, I was, like, tapping a beat with my foot, and, like, I had never in my life written a song I thought called for a beat.
Wow.
And I'm not someone that makes beats. I'm not Bula on the beat. So, but, like, so there was some component of that song that had, like, the whole idea was there. The whole idea was right there. But there was, like, I knew there was also a missing component. And I cannot believe how much the universe strung together those missing components for me. And I think one of those huge missing components was Michael Franzino.
Yeah.
Because when I met him for coffee that day, ultimately because I wanted to ask a musician that I respected, I literally wanted to ask him, like, should I give up? Like, should I give up? Do I have something? Should I keep going?
So you were going to give up music.
No part of me, I think.
Not really.
I think there's always been that struggle in me, even since I was younger. not feeling deserving of taking up that space and wondering, like, what right do I have for people to care? What right do I have to try to make something big out of my music, even though that's something I've always felt and always desired,
Right.
And always chased. Even now, when all this stuff pops up, I think about it even more. I'm like, I'm always checking back in with myself about, like, why do I want this? Like, what's the heart behind this? But, like, I guess, you know, to be more truthful, I was looking for someone to I wanted someone to tell it to me straight or tell me to keep going. I was just looking for a sign from anywhere. And I was doing all sorts of other things too. Like I said, going to that women's circle, I would take myself to the river and I would just dunk myself in the river with all my clothes on and just just look up at the sky. Like, what should I do? What should I do?
Wow.
I would bury a flower in the sand. I would bury like a rosebud in the sand and I'd be like, I pray that this flower blooms, and if it doesn't, like, wash the flower away and I will accept it. But if this flower is supposed to bloom, like, help me bloom it. And that's always a question I ask. Like, I think that's just the feeling of having a calling. Like, I feel music is my calling.
Absolutely.
But that's a very big thing to say and a hard thing to live up to. And, you know, a lot of people think music is their calling. A lot of people, it's hard to know. Yeah, but it's hard to know if you're truly capable of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I met Michael for coffee. I told him about this song that I had, how I'd been recently writing on piano, and for some reason, like, this different sound was coming out. At the time, his band of 10 years was ending. He was also at a crossroads. And he was also yearning to move past the genre of music that he was in. And over, like, 10 years of diligently working in that band, he's, like, created an ear for himself for producing. So he's kind of been, like, naturally becoming a producer over the course of, you know, this band that he is a part of. And so we kind of ended up falling in love that night on accident.
Accident.
Which is great. But I think it was like, you know, a week later, he's like, just let's come to the studio and just, like, put it on piano and, like, see where it goes. And I told him I wanted to, like, hear it with, you know, this kind of beat. And, like, we sat together in the studio. I remember being like, oh my God, I'm in the studio. Like, it's just so funny to think of now that we spend, like, literally all of our time there. But, like,
beginning stages.
Yeah. But the first time that we, like, threw the beat over the song, what I put down, we were both just like,
did Michael
whoa.
create the beat? Did you create the beat, or did you guys, like, co-create the beat?
Michael definitely, he makes electronic music.
Okay.
So it's more me, like, articulating what I want to hear, and then he's, like, the engineer behind it.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
So, like, as we go along this process, I do all that I can to, like, learn all of it. I want to learn all of it.
So you're really involved.
Yeah.
That's
but
awesome.
I mean, it's like years of knowledge, like, that he has with engineering music.
Yeah.
So, you know, basically, we just spent one night exploring that song and walked away both being like, whoa, I just made something I've never made before.
Yeah.
This sounds like nothing I've ever made.
Was it a good feeling, though?
Absolutely.
Or were you, like, unsure? Or were you, like,
so
yes,
unsure.
you were confident?
Even that original demo sounds nothing like the final version of the song. It was just that we were just beginning to explore that song.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, there's a lot to explore here. We changed the beat a zillion times. We changed every aspect of that song. The initial demo has all these bells and whistles, and then, you know, lyrics were cut here and lyrics were cut there and lyrics were added here, and the song, like, molded and transformed. We took that song from Sacramento, we took it to Nashville. We worked with a producer there in Nashville to then take the song further, and then we came back to Sacramento, did final engineering with another producer. So, like, it was very collaborative. But still, ultimately, like, it was still just this, like, this piece of me that, I don't know, I was just watching it come to life before my eyes. And there was this certain feeling of throwing caution to the wind, because it was so foreign for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a feeling of like trusting other artists and producers to help me like tell my story and help me get my sound across. And that's something I'm still navigating and will probably always continue to navigate. But yeah, it was just so beautiful. And I think there was such a chemistry between us working on those songs together. It was sort of felt like, where have you been all my life, and why weren't we making music 10 years ago? You know? But, you know, everything happens as it should, and we met each other right at the moment when we needed to. And he's just been an amazing person to have at my side through all of this. He's just somebody that does not give up. He's a problem solver. And I'm the type of person that when there's a problem, I want to just like fall down and die. And
I need that.
He just pushes me to problem solve. He pushes me to never let insecurity be an excuse. And I think insecurity was a big excuse for me for a long time. Just being really afraid. And his lock screen on his phone is, nobody cares, work harder. And
I like that.
Yeah, it's like harsh, but it is like,
it's true.
It's true.
It's so true.
And it is so Michael, and it is so that process. It's just like, I know this is hard. I know you're struggling with this, and this.
Yeah.
We still make music. We still go to the studio. We still get it done.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, like, how much, there really is no separation between our relationship and our music.
You just, like, coexist. It's
so coexist. And he has his own entities of music, too, that completely occupy his time. And he also is still so willing to lend so much to my music, like, the logistical side of things. Because I'm much more the emotional and artistic side of things. And he's like, okay, how do we take these feelings and make it a thing.
Right.
And I think that's like really important for an artist to have somebody like that in your corner.
Absolutely.
Let alone my boyfriend, somebody that I love.
Right.
And trust. And yeah, it definitely can be hard too. It's such an added component.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There are times where we are at each other's absolute throats in the studio, but we always end the day with like a kiss and a hug.
Yeah.
And like, oh man. Like, you know, like, God, like, this sucks, but I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we work hard together.
Good. So you have a new single coming out called Burden. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, I'm really excited about this song because I think, you know, I've put out these first two singles. They're, I would definitely still call them darker alt pop, but they still are a lot more upbeat. And, this song has a darker side to it, while still totally being in a pop landscape. So I feel really happy about that because I feel sort of like I'm merging the two parts of me. I feel like I'm merging the kind of darker alt side and I'm merging like the pop side into this song. And again, this song just kind of poured out of me all at once one night. And it started as a song on guitar. I did not think it would be a song I would share with anybody, but it just kept pushing on my heart, and here it is. And now it's shaping up to be, I think, one of the songs I'm most proud of. And I can't wait for people to hear it. Yeah. So I'm currently finishing up production on the song, and I'm just so excited to roll it out and decide exactly how I want to do that. But been sitting on the song for a little while, so excited for it to see the light of day.
Do you want to talk about the lyrics a little bit?
Yeah.
And the story behind it?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
What was the inspiration behind the song?
Well, you know, it'll make more sense, I guess, when people can actually hear the song. But,
right. It's a sneak peek.
One of the main lines of the song says, I'm just an hourglass you can't tip over. Wait until the sand runs out. Before I open my mouth, because I'm just a burden. And it's this feeling of taking up too much space. It's this feeling of being a burden. It's this feeling of needing too much. All those insecurities that I grapple with and have grappled with for, you know, a lot of my life. And I have this, my mom will hate that I'm sharing the story. I love you, Mom. So anyways, but when I was a little girl, my mom used to have this hourglass that sat on her bed, and she had this big, beautiful bed and this beautiful hourglass. And I would always want to go in there and just sit on her bed and just talk and just chat and talk. And if you can't tell, I really like to talk. And understandably so, she would get to a point where like she needed some quiet, and she would tell me as like a challenge. She would flip the hourglass over and say, "Try to go an hour without talking." Yeah. And I think that was my earliest moment as a kid of feeling like I was talking too much and taking up too much space, and realizing how hard it was for me to go an hour without talking. I'm sure it's hard for like any 5-year-old to go an hour without talking, but it got to the point where I used to do it to myself. I would go and I'd flip the hourglass and I would try to see if I could go an hour without talking. And I could never do it. And if I talked, I would flip it back over and try to go again for another hour. Later on, when I was reflecting on when I was writing a song in this house, playing guitar, I had all the lights off and just some candles lit, and I was going through something else at the time, and I was just reflecting on that feeling of feeling like a burden, of feeling like I need too much, I talk too much, I require too much, I give too much. Whatever I was feeling in my relationship at the time, I realized like really traced back to that hourglass feeling. Of just somehow being like too much and therefore like not enough. And the song is very simple. The lyrics are very simple, but it's a very deep lesson for me. But I guess ultimately I reject that.
You're not too much.
Yeah, I reject that ultimately.
Yeah.
That song is me grappling with that feeling.
Overcoming it.
Yeah.
Love that.
And just realizing that I'm not too much when I need love. Like if I need love, I need love. And that's perfectly reasonable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Amber, thank you so much for your time. If you guys want to support Amber, you can follow her and stream all of her music on all platforms. And follow her on Instagram at Amber DeLaRosa. And she also sells all of her art pieces there. One of a kind. All right, stay tuned for new music.